Hey, welcome to a playthrough of Marathon Istoria with dev commentary. This is working character or racking character, depending on how you want to say it. And I'm here with Windbreaker and Irons.
Hi, this is Windbreaker.
Hey, it's Irons.
Yeah, so the three of us are the ones that made this game, so we thought it'd be nice to just show a playthrough of the game. And, it's probably more interesting if we're adding commentary, so hopefully you guys will find it interesting as well. Um, I guess I figure I'd just jump into like why, how this game came to exist and how we each got involved in the project. So I guess I'll start since it basically started with me. It started kind of after I had finished porting Pathways to Aleph One. In the process of doing that, I had implemented all these kind of neat features that I wanted to reuse in something that might be more appealing, or something with a more fast-paced type game, rather than Pathways where you're walking really slowly. Um, so I had briefly tried to work on a more modern style Pathways game that would have all the same things, but it would have more modern like map layouts and physics and movement and that kind of thing. But it didn't go far because the pathways textures are just extremely limited, and other just issues like that kind of lost interest. Um, but I still wanted to make something where you could revisit levels you'd already been to, talk to dead bodies, because I think that's a really interesting way to enhance the storytelling on top of just terminals. More RPG mechanics, so you get better at your weapons as you use them. And then spells or something that goes along with your conventional weapons. So I I started playing around with the idea, and actually made a map, um, using some just spells I had created for fun. There I had been playing Myth, and there are some cool spells in there. The lightning, in particular, always was really cool to me, and the dispersal dream. So I had coded those up in Marathon just to see if I could, mostly. And then I wanted to play around with it, so make a map and where you could use these spells and level up. But the problem is I kind of lost steam on that because I don't really like mapping and I'm not very good at mapping. So it would have been a very short proof of concept thing. Um, but eventually Windbreaker got interested and was willing to actually make it a real game. So I'm going to turn it over to Windbreaker so we can talk about that.
Yeah. So it was, I think, in late summer of 2020, kind of that COVID lockdown year. I was making some multiplayer maps because I was pretty bored, and so I kind of got back into mapping after a couple of years of not really doing anything. And near the end of my run of net maps, when I was about to put them out, um, work made a comment that maybe I'd be interested in helping out. With this RPG game that he's been working on. And right away, I knew that I would be interested in doing it because I had been interested in some of the um, Pathways into Darkness mechanics after he released Aleph One Pathways into Darkness. Specifically, kind of level states being saved, getting to go between levels and talking to dead people, looting bodies, stuff like that just seemed really fun and like a super interesting thing to kind of explore in Marathon. And so I kind of just right away, as soon as he said that, figured that I'd probably be making some maps for this. I've wanted to always, I think, like most kind of Marathon fans or people that mess around with mapping, I've always wanted to kind of do a scenario. Um, but I've always kind of felt like there's this paradox where you need like I don't want to do just a vanilla marathon, scenario with using infinity textures or whatever. But I'm not an artist at all, so you know. But in order to kind of entice an artist to maybe create textures or create sprites, which take a ton of work, you kind of need maps. But to have maps, you need the textures. So to me, it always just kind of felt like this thing that was too much trouble to put together. But with this RPG element, and with everything that work was kind of working on, I knew that this would be different from any other thing, and it would just be really fun to work on. So um, that's kind of how I joined the process. And it was still like a couple months before I actually started making maps. Um, just because that first, I feel like that first map is kind of so daunting, when you start a project like this. And I really wanted to make sure too that I was doing it right and didn't feel like I had to redo it later, which was kind of one of my big fears when making this. So yeah, that's kind of how I got involved. And then we put together a demo of after I got about 4 maps complete. We figured it was time to show some other people and kind of get some feedback on whether what we were doing was actually good or if it was just total BS, right? Um, and so we sent it to a couple people, and one of those people was Irons. And I guess I can turn it over to him unless you have anything else you want to add. Work.
Nope, sounds right.
Cool.
Right. Well, yeah. So, uh, I was kind of working on my own RPG like Lua stuff, not very seriously, um, and was talking to work about it periodically over on the IRC server. And he said, "Hey, we've got this thing that you might want to see." And I had seen several demo videos of his effects that he'd been working on over the years, so was kind of interested, but I also was just sort of done playing Marathon at that point. So I thought, and except the occasional fusion duel with work, and so I just kind of put it off, and almost I think I forgot about it really, and then I found the file in my downloads folder a couple months later, and actually loaded it up and played it, and thought it was super cool. And so I'd also been working on music stuff, which ever since the Fat Sam and Kill Me EP years and years ago. Like that's been an interest. So I I just kind of got an itch to make one track that just based on like the mood I was feeling playing some of the levels, and thought it turned out well enough, and shared it with work, and then said, hey, I'd love to make a soundtrack if you guys are looking for that kind of thing. And so that's when I got pulled in.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even really expect to have a soundtrack going in, but your stuff really fit in well. So yeah,
Yeah, it all sort of gelled. It was cool.
yeah, and you also ended up adding some map filtering stuff. Um, so I mean, yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and the music itself uses more than just the basic. Uses Lewis scripting that goes a little bit beyond like just the normal one track per level functionality that you see in a lot of other places. Although some obviously are branching out too.
Right. All right. Do we want to get the game started here?
Let's get into it.
So yeah, the first thing that you'll see in this game is a class selection. So there's your first RPG element. We wanted to make this replayable. Um, so we didn't want a super long scenario. It takes a major time investment. Although this turned out to be a pretty medium-sized scenario, like it's longer than I had anticipated when we first started. But we wanted it not super long so that you could actually want to replay the game, and then when you do, you can pick a different class. So you can see we've got a bunch of ones to choose from. So as far as how I decided which classes we wanted in this game, I mostly started by just picking make one class for each weapon, kind of, or roughly have each weapon in the game have a class that it's good for. So like Rifleman is AR and SMG. You got Fusion, the flamethrower, and alien weapon, and rocket launcher. The one that's not in here is shotgun, and I just felt like it didn't really need its own class because shotgun's already really good, and it's kind of general purpose. So all of these classes will probably want to use a shotgun anyway, so it just didn't seem necessary. Um, and I had briefly played around with making one for fists, so like having a melee class, but that just had all sorts of problems. It wasn't really that fun to play. The idea was you would have an ability to rush forward and like a lunge kind of, and then if you timed your punch just right as you were going past something really quick, you would do tons of damage. But that never really worked out well because if you didn't time your punch well or you didn't kill it in one hit, you would just get stuck on that monster. 'Cause they would block your path, but you'd still have all this momentum built up. So you would just kind of have to sit there waiting for your momentum to die down before you could move normally again. So yeah, it just didn't work and it wasn't fun. So that class does not appear in this game. But along with the weapon-specific classes, there's some other interesting ones here. So like the Timekeeper, I think I got this idea from way back when I had made this turn-based multiplayer kind of mode where each player gets a turn, and for everyone else they're frozen in time as well as their projectiles. And it was always really funny to me and kind of fun to see projectiles frozen in the air and then people running into them and all that kind of thing. So I wanted a class that you could freeze time, including projectiles. It's really neat, I think. And
I still
actually,
have that script, by the way.
yeah, I think I ended up uploading it to Simplicity at some point.
Yeah, I've hosted it a bunch. Well, not a bunch, but
Right.
once in a blue moon.
Let's see. The Deceiver. So this was kind of inspired by Myth. That's some of the spells in the game work too, but this class, there's a character in the Myth where you can turn an enemy to be your ally. So I kind of wanted to throw that in here. See how it'd be to. It's not a permanent thing, but you can temporarily bring some monster to fight with you. So I thought that would be kind of a neat thing to try. Telekinetic. This is kind of the pretty much every kind of magic game out there lets you push things with your mind because that just seems everyone thinks that's cool, kind of. So I wanted to be able to shove monsters around, which is somewhat useful. You can interrupt their attacks. Sometimes you can shove them into lava, but I guess to make it more useful, it also will shove projectiles back. So that's kind of one way to make it useful. So yeah, just kind of a general note for all classes, they all have an active ability and a passive ability. So the active will have a cooldown. You can only use it so often, and as you level, that cooldown decreases. So by the end of the game, you should be able to, hit your active pretty regularly. And then they all have a passive ability, and the passive ability will gain in strength in some way or another over as you level up. So I think for this, I'm just going to pick Rifleman, the first in the list, probably the most marathon-like class in the game.
I think Rifleman's definitely my favorite, just because, like you said, it's most marathon-like, and you can kind of capitalize on an active ability with assault rifle and with SMG, and that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you get one extra, strat almost.
Right. All right, so right away we're starting off with some new textures, kind of based on old textures. Some of them are new, some of them are old.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned, wanting new textures if I make a scenario, and also that I'm not an artist. So what I kind of did um, is just recolor some old textures and combine some old textures together. Because in Marathon, in each game, there's you see the same pattern show up in multiple textures, and you see different variations. And so I kind of thought that was maybe fair game for me to try to just give it a bit of a different color palette in some areas. Um, and so yeah, right away you're greeted with this ship, and I kind of did the thing where I think a couple other scenarios kind of do this pass off Jaro or Yarrow textures as human, so you can see the UESC sign on the door. So yeah, it's meant to be a human ship, and yeah, just to look a little bit different than your usual Marathon game.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, like, I didn't do anything yet, why is there a save here? Well, a lot of new players are probably going to come in here and like, oh wow, now I'm stuck. There's a Bob behind me. They're going to die because that's kind of half the point of this intro here, is to kill you, make you realize, oh, I need to use the spells. So rather than having to die and then pick your class all over again, here's the save. So that was just kind of a detail that you might be curious about. I guess we'll take a look at the terminal. We're not going to read through all of this, but we might point out some things as we, if there's something specific we want to talk about.
Yeah, it's pretty run of the mill expository terminal. It's kind of long just because of all the RPG elements we kind of got to explain. And this scenario actually kind of came out around the time that like AI image generation and AI was kind of taken off. So we kind of made use of combining that with other different sort of production processes to get these terminal images. For instance, the planet um, was made in Terrigen by work, and that's also what we use to make the landscapes of the game. Those ships that are above the planet are sort of, you know, generate. I can't remember if they're generated completely with AI or if they were just kind of enhanced from something previous that we had drawn.
I think I drew like a incredibly crude thing just to tell the AI, here's like basically what I want, and then it made it look like something real.
Yeah.
I
So
don't
that
know
was
if I.
kind of helpful.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I still have the really crude things, but they'd be pretty funny to see, I think.
It
Yeah.
was also funny seeing when work would be like, "Hey, check out this image," and it was like something really dumb looking that the AI had generated. I always enjoyed discovering those posts in the Discord.
Yeah, if you're working with AI stuff, you'll get a lot of entertainment out of it as well, due to the terrible results you get sometimes.
It's great for us though, because none of us are really super artistically inclined. So it's kind of a great way to kind of give us an opportunity to do some of that stuff that we not would normally not be able to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just wish we could have had Eddie do like an oil painting of every
I do too.
terminal,
I'll
but we
have
don't
to
have that
I'll
kind
have
of
to
money.
link him. I'll have to link him this video so we can pressure him a little bit,
Let's do
maybe for
that.
1.1.
All
So, a
right.
quick note on the terminal is like during this period, this is the only scripted music, like specific track, and it's meant to sort of build tension. And I think we all agreed that it should be that way, so that we just sort of dumped it in and added it.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to start the scenario on a consistent like. It's kind of spooky too, which I enjoy.
All right, so
So,
here's the
oh, go
first
ahead.
dead body we got. Um, so yeah, you can loot it. The HUD is actually popping up these windows so you can actually read what each of these things are. So pretty much every dead body you'll come across in the game will have something you can loot off of them. So blue key is going to be useful.
I like that, like one of the principles that's kind of subtle about this scenario is having it document everything possible. So, like the controls for looting, or when you go into the overhead map, it tells you how to get help. And I think that's just really great. It's a good principle to go by.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, since I'm a rifleman, there's an SMG here, but if you play a different class, it will either not be there or something else will be there. So like, if you're playing Rocket Man, there would be a rocket launcher there. And that was just so we could have class-specific spawns so that we don't have to give everyone every weapon right off the gate. So like, you still have stuff to look forward to later in the game when you unlock new weapons, but it obviously wouldn't work if you picked Rifleman and you didn't get a rocket launcher till, or I mean, if you pick Rocket Man and you don't get a rocket launcher till level 6 or something, that wouldn't be good, right? So that was kind of a neat way we handled that, I think. And then so I just picked up a couple ammo selectors. So that's another way you can craft the character you want. So you gain experience as you use certain weapons. So you can focus on, a couple of the weapons to get really good at them. But if we tried to let you do that, but use traditional ammo locations throughout the map, that wouldn't really work well because you'd have to use the weapons you have ammo for. So this ammo selector, it's one of the spells in the game. It lets you choose exactly how you want to allocate your ammo. So therefore, it also helps with the replayability. You could play, like if you're picking Timekeeper, one of the non-weapon specific ones, you could focus on one weapon one time, and then you could even play the same class and just pick different weapons the next time. So um, that was one of my goals with this game.
And for those who don't know, experience in a weapon means increased damage over the levels.
Right. Okay, so I'm just gonna go with AR stuff for now.
So for the start of this level, I kind of wanted to do almost a bit of misdirection in a way, maybe for better or for worse. But you start off on what I tried to make this beginning of the scenario sort of a traditional marathon ship first level, like Arrival a little bit, or the first level of Infinity, in the sense that you're just on kind of a cramped spaceship or space station or something, and it's maybe a little bit darker in some areas. But what I wanted to do was kind of contrast that with this airlock when you kind of see the planet and the landscape and everything for the first time. You see this really big, bright courtyard, and I kind of wanted to really contrast those two. The other thing that's nice about this area is that you really get a chance to take advantage of the two spells that you have now. So you can use lightning right at that initial encounter with the airlock or wherever you want. But you can also, use laser to snipe these enemies that are all the way across the map, and that's something that I really enjoy about the laser is that I've always kind of wanted a weapon that you could snipe with in marathon. You know, that has some real actual power, and you can't really get better than the laser with that. So I really wanted to make a space that was really big, um, and allowed you to kind of shoot across the whole space to kill enemies.
It also gives a chance to show that the game is pretty generous with these spells, especially. Like, you might be worried about using the lightning that you just discovered was super powerful, but if you walk around even a little, you're going to start to see, like, oh, you can pick up more for certain. It's not something to hoard.
Yeah, yeah, and we have spell limits, or so you can only have 10 seconds is what it counts as a laser, or 5 lightnings at a time. And main reason to do that was, like Irons is saying, to discourage hoarding. That's another way to do that. And you know we didn't want people to try to stockpile as many lightnings and lasers and stuff as they wanted. We wanted them to use it throughout the game and have fun with it. So um, that's kind of the reason for the spell cap, even if you're playing on like Total Carnage.
Yeah, so you see how the map's a little bit confusing in this ship now. One of the things Irons had added was this ability to filter down to just the the floor that you're on the ship. And then if
Yeah,
you
that was like a last minute addition. I'm
right.
sorry, Rourke, go ahead.
No, I mean it's your you want to talk about it, that's fine. But yeah, it'll actually dynamically show you what the things related to what floor you happen to be on. And then you could just obviously turn it off completely as well. Okay. I don't know what's up with the 0 annotation there.
That's your. Oh, is it on the same floor as you
Oh,
still?
right, that's the body without loot. Oh, I already forgot
Yeah.
about that. All
It's
right.
in the legend,
Yeah,
man. You
yeah.
even documented it on the thing.
Yep.
Consult the legend.
Yep, there you go. All right. At first I was like, wait, did we screw something up there? But no.
Well, and also we were working on. I was trying to work on an annotations script. Maybe Work thought he accidentally enabled it.
Right. So there's a nice ship outside view.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, I feel like, to not have real life objects in Marathon look a little silly. I remember, I think there's like an overturned like truck that's supposed to be a truck in a net map or in a map of Marathon Red. I can't remember now, but always looked a little silly. And I think, oh, that was a really good lightning, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed what I just did there, but the rifleman has a ability to suck things in with the grenade. So like when the grenade hits, everything will get sucked in toward it. So what I did is I just fired it at the center of that room, gathered everything up into a big ball, and then hit it with lightning, and it basically just killed everything in that room. It's really fun when you can actually execute it well. Sometimes I end up just dying because I'm focused. I'm so focused on trying to get a perfect setup that I forget to dodge. Okay, I seem to be out of grenades, so time to get more ammo. Oh, and I got the music that will occasionally trigger when it detects a. Is it a big battle? Like a bunch of things spawn in?
Yeah, the whole set of algorithms is kind of confusing. I don't even remember all the details, but yeah, large battle has that specific one track, bubbles burst, it's called, and small battles can, and I think even maybe occasionally large battles can also trigger silence because I didn't want it to just be a constant sound experience. I think it worked out pretty well.
And one thing you might notice I'm doing, I've tried to hit things with grenades first before doing a lot of other damage, and that's just due to my class passive. Um, so when you hit monsters with grenades, they will take additional damage from that point on. So it's if you're playing this class, it's good to hit them with grenades early. Okay, and these guys, I don't want to fight them like that. I always just kind of cheese this, let them all gather up. Don't want to deal with those troopers.
I really enjoy how, I mean, it's only the first level. I don't remember how long it took me to finish it for the first time, but it seemed like an hour or two just because I was wandering around, and I thought it was just like such a nice flow from place to place, and there was a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, I tried to. I think this level is almost. I think it's probably the simplest, maybe the most linear of the bunch, and that's pretty intentional. Just because I knew you were going to be getting used to RPG mechanics and a bunch of different controls, and you might be fiddling with your controls, and I kind of didn't want. Um, I didn't want a really complex, map like you might see in Rubicon, because I think that you'd be focused on other stuff. But at the same time, yeah, it definitely rewards. exploration. That's one of the big things in this scenario that hopefully tries to lend itself to some replayability. Um, with there just being a bunch of different things you can explore that aren't necessary to the path, but are full of ammo or whatever, full of goodies.
I hate these enforcers.
But look at how easy that was to deal with.
Yeah,
Oh, there's
I
another
am.
AI image. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I am a spell hoarder, so to the extent possible, so I don't like using them there. Plus, I have this compulsion to preserve the alien guns that those guys drop,
Oh.
which obviously doesn't happen with the lightning. It didn't used to happen with the laser either until
Yeah, when I heard you were avoiding using laser against enforcers, that's when I was like, oh, that's not good. We need to have them drop the weapon in that case, because that's one of the main reasons for the laser is sniping things.
And especially sniping enforcers.
yeah, it feels so good to get revenge on them.
Yeah. I feel like enforcers are kind of honestly annoying in regular marathon scenarios. And there's a time and a place for them, but they can be really easily overused. But that laser it makes it so much more fun to deal with them because you can kind of stun lock them and you don't have to just hide from their flames if you're in kind of a weird corridor area or something.
Yeah. So here's what the end of the level looks like. So if I wanted to, I could leave the level now. But there's this... Looks like there's a path or something over here, so let's go explore that.
It used to be, I think, a far less forgiving game initially. Like obviously, no one playing who just started playing would know, but like the classes, I think almost all of them have evolved over time. Like even the active abilities for the riflemen have changed, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I forget what the rifleman. I think we got feedback that it just wasn't interesting or something. So that's why I changed it so that hitting something with grenades makes them take more damage, because that's kind of something that'll actually change the way you think about combat a little bit, rather than what it was before, where I forget exactly what it was, but it didn't really change how you play the game much.
I think you got more like the bullets. Oh no, that was the passive bullets being accurate. But yeah, it wasn't. I think it was just. Yeah, I don't know, but I think the
I
game
think the
is much smoother now.
cooldowns were I think the cooldowns were maybe a little longer.
That too, they were a lot longer.
Yeah, so you
Mm.
couldn't really take advantage as quickly, you know.
And it also wasn't obvious that they got shorter as you leveled up. And so I basically didn't use my active ability ever for the first few playthroughs.
Mm.
You gotta give a shout out to Ryoko because he provided a lot of really good feedback on his playthroughs, which were like fairly early in the process. They were after I came on board, but he had a lot of really good suggestions.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess at this point the level's basically done. So I guess we wanted to show the secrets as well. Might as well, since we're doing all
Yeah.
this. So I believe there's only... I guess if you don't want to see the secrets, then stop watching. I don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's only one on this level. So
Yeah, there's only one secret on this level because you might have noticed the red door inside the ship, and we don't have a red key yet. And so I don't know, there might be some more ammo behind the red door. It certainly seems like that'd be a logical thing to do. So with that in mind, there's only one secret. Usually on other maps, there's like between 2 and 4, and they always offer some extra ammo or health cans or spells. So yeah, that's that one secret there. Just kind of just a pretty traditional secret door, slightly darker than the textures around it. Maybe kind of hard to find. I'm not the most inclined to search for secrets when I play games, so I don't know. I feel like that maybe I could have made the secrets a little more interesting here. I don't know, but there's definitely something I'm thinking about. if we ever end up doing an update.
Makes sense. All right, well, we're done with this level. I'm just going to go to the next one. So I had mentioned it at the beginning of the video, but one thing you can do in this scenario is return to levels that you had already been at, and their state will be preserved. So like you can see this door's already open. The monsters that were here, I had killed them, so they're not here anymore. So yeah, so you can go back. If I had left some spells on the ground, which I probably did, I could go pick them up. Although I didn't want to encourage people to feel like they needed to go backtrack and pick up spells. I don't think Windbreaker did either. Like we wanted to make sure each map had all the spells they really needed. But if you want extra spells, you can't. The option is there. But also, we didn't like tack on the ability to return to previous levels at the last minute. This was actually a design decision that we knew at the very beginning of the game, and we did make good use of it. I think it may not be immediately clear the first few levels, but it will become clear why we did that as you play. So I think for now, this is probably where we're going to end this first one. And then next time we'll explore upstream a bit.
All right.
Anything else to add?
That's
I
all
don't
I
think
got
so
for now.
Yep. Until
All right.
next time.
Cool. I'll see you guys next time.